Thanks for tuning in today. I was just thinking about, when we started Airbnb. I started it 12 years ago with my friends, Joe and Nate. And when we started Airbnb, we were the first host. And then we started getting hosts on the platform. And we literally would meet our very first host. We'd have meetups. And one of the things that I remembered was the closer we were to host, the better decisions we made. And over time, we became a really big company. But over time, what I also noticed is I've gotten further away from host. And I've noticed that especially now, because here I am in my home. I'm not with family. I'm not with loved ones. And many of you hosts are not with your family, your loved ones, or your coworkers. And I think it's at times like this, these types of isolation, where we realize that we need to be more connected than ever. And I wanted to use this talk to really connect us better again, host and us. In the last few weeks have been truly devastating. Global travel has stopped. Borders have closed. Over 3 billion people are in lockdown. Over 50 airlines are grounded. Hotels are down to 10% occupancy. The CEO of Marriott said they're a 92-year-old company, and they've lived through the Great Depression and World War II. And neither of those two crises were as bad as COVID-19. In fact, it's worse than 2008 and 9/11 combined. And I know that this is not only hard on us, this is especially hard on you, our host. You see, what you do is you provide human connection. And that is at odds, oftentimes now, with social distancing. And so I know this is an incredibly painful time. And I think one of the really big pains that you've told us are cancellations. In fact, the number one question that I've heard is about extenuating circumstances. And I want to address that with you right now. 17 days ago, the World Health Organization declared a pandemic. And we had a dilemma. Do we allow our guests to cancel? And if we do, it would have significant consequences on your livelihood. But we couldn't have our guests and our host. We couldn't have them pressured to put themselves in unsafe situations. We didn't want to create an additional public health hazard. So we had to allow your guests to cancel and receive a full refund, including our fees. Now, this was not a business decision. This was a decision that was based on protecting the public health. It's one of the hardest decisions that we've ever made, but I do believe we did the right thing. But I wanted to say this to you right now. I am sorry. I'm sorry we didn't consult you as partners. And I've heard from you ever since that decision. And what I've heard is that, you want us to treat you truly like partners. And we want to fix this. Since this decision, we've held over 50 listening sessions. We've read every community center comment. We've heard your frustrations. And we've even written down all of your ideas. And although it may not feel like it right now, we are partners. And when your business suffers, our business suffers. And I know many of you are struggling. And the last thing you need are more words and more platitudes. What you need are actions. Well, I wanted to offer 4 actions to you today that I hope make things a little bit easier. And the first one is regarding our extenuating circumstance policy. So we are taking some new actions around this. First, host, we will pay you $250 million for the cost of COVID-19 cancellations. Guests with reservations booked on or before March 14th will still be able to cancel and receive the standard refund or travel credit. But when a guest cancels one of these reservations due to COVID-19, we will pay you 25% of what you normally receive through your cancellation policy. Now, this will apply retroactively, including all cancellations that you've had since March 14th. This cost will be covered entirely by Airbnb. For any reservations booked after March 14th, your cancellation policy will stay in effect as usual. And we've made it really clear to our guests on our site about this, and we're going to continue to enforce your cancellation policy. Now, the second thing we're going to do is we are announcing a $10 million Superhost Relief Fund. For those hosts hurt most, we are going to offer grants of up to $5,000 these grants will not need to be paid back. Now, this is designed for superhosts who rent out their home and need help paying their rent or mortgage. We're also making this available to long-tenured Airbnb experiences hosts who are trying to make ends meet. Now, the really cool thing about this is it started with our employees. Our employees started a fund to contribute to help support our host, and that fund grew to $1 million. Jonah and I have put in and contributed the remaining $9 million, and that's where the $10 million for this Superhost Relief Fund comes from. The third thing we're going to do is we're going to make it easier for previous guests to send financial support directly to you if you choose to receive it. We've heard from numerous guests that they are grateful for your hospitality and your flexibility. Many of them have asked, how can they reach out to you and how can they offer a little bit of support? So what we're going to do is we're giving them a way to send you a note. And with that note, if they choose, they can attach a contribution to any host that they've stayed with in the past. We expect this to go live in April. If you don't want to be a part of this, you don't have to receive the contributions, but we want to make this available to you. We know even if this is just a little will go a long way right now. And the last thing is for US hosts. We've worked together to secure support for hosts in the United States government's recent COVID-19 stimulus bill. Now, this legislation allows hosts in the United States to take advantage of relief measures. For example, you will now be available for small business grants. You'll be available for small business loans and unemployment assistance. Now, our community of hosts, you, made over 105,000 calls to members of Congress to make this possible. And we are now going to work together for hosts all over the world to secure support in your other countries as well, because Airbnb is in over 194 countries around the world. And so we have a lot of work to do, but we're starting here with the United States. Now, this is just a start. These are 4 big actions that we're taking today. We have a team working around the clock, 7 days a week, to try to continue to make this easier for you. And we're going to be building a number of new programs for you. For example, we're going to work on new ways to drive demand to you and help you rebuild your business. And over the coming weeks and months, we'll have some updates on that. One of the biggest requests we've heard is travel insurance, business continuity insurance. Why don't we offer this? Well, we have teams working on this as well. So to recap, there's 4 major actions that we are taking. We're going to pay $250 million to hosts for the cost of COVID-19 cancellations. We're announcing a $10 million Superhost Relief Fund. We're making it easier for previous guests to send financial support to you. And we're working to support hosts in government legislation. Now, before I go, I wanted to answer a couple questions that I saw from the community that I thought were really important to highlight. And I wanted to do 2 of them. And the first one is from Sarah. And we spoke to Sarah in a listening session. And this is what Sarah asked us. She said, I'd love to know what in-home host will be able to do to prevent guests from bringing the virus to our homes. Of course, speculation on all of that at this point, but what's going on in brainstorms of the office? Well, Sarah, we know that you and hosts all over the world want to continue to host. In fact, many of you need to continue to host, but you have questions about how to do this safely. So we are working with world-renowned experts and epidemiologists to provide standards and guidance. We're going to anchor everything we do in official sources and health authorities. So to start, we've published resources on airbnb.com/COVID. This includes sanitation protocols and a checklist based on CDC standards. By following scientific advice and precautions, our homes can be a force for good. We can use them to support first responders like our host in France and Italy. And we're committed to providing clear communication and best practices. I want to just reference one more thing we heard, and this is from Melanie. And she said in a listening session, With all these cancellations and hardly any new reservations, how long will Airbnb be able to survive? Well, Melanie, this is not even a once in a generation crisis. This feels, at least for the travel industry, more like a once in a century crisis. We planned for many scenarios, but we did not plan for this. And I, as CEO, have never been through anything like this. In fact, nobody has. This is hitting travel companies really hard. But Airbnb, the company, and Airbnb, the community, we are going to weather this storm. We are going to get through this together, and there will be a huge amount of business on the other side. Now, many of our hosts are already adapting to the new realities. For example, fewer people are crossing a border and traveling, but nearly today, half of our nights booked are for stays longer than a month. People are now using Airbnb for remote working, and instead of working from home, they're working from home in an Airbnb. And families are using Airbnb to get more space nearby in the cities that they live. And we've been through crisis before as a community. In Puerto Rico, Hurricane Maria devastated our host community. Before the crisis, we had 7,700 hosts offering homes. Today, we have over 12,000 homes available. We've been stronger after the crisis than before the crisis. And just like we bounced back from that crisis, we're going to bounce back from this. You see, humans, we have a fundamental need to travel. We don't have to be marketed to travel. It's innate in us. And this storm, no matter how bad it is, no matter how long the storm goes on, the one thing I know about this storm is, like all storms, it is going to end. And when it's over, on the other side of it, people are going to be waiting to get out of their homes. And when they do get out of their homes, they're going to want to explore the world, and they're going to stay in communities with you. The last thing I wanted to say is just a sincere thank you to all of you. You know, I think that, you know, Airbnb, the company, we are nothing without you, the host. You are our lifeblood. And your generosity over the last 12 years has made the world a kinder place. And I want to just give one example. Last week, hosts rose up in France and in Italy because they wanted to provide housing for COVID frontline responders. We noticed this, and we made a commitment that we would provide housing for 100,000 COVID-19 responders all over the world. Well, something pretty interesting happened that I wasn't expecting. Since we made that announcement just a few days ago, 50,000 hosts have raised their hand to open up their homes to support the front line. If people aren't traveling around the world, our community, we are going to still find a way to be useful. And the best way we can be useful is to help in this pandemic. And I want to just thank all of the incredibly generous hosts that stepped up to provide housing for healthcare providers, relief workers, first responders. This was made possible through our Open Homes platform, and we've partnered with governments and health organizations. Now, this isn't the first crisis we've been through as a community. Airbnb started in the crisis of 2008. That crisis didn't stop us then. This one won't stop us now. Like as I said before, all storms will pass. I remember as a kid, my dad used to say, Brian, things are never quite as good as they seem or as bad as they seem. And I know they seem incredibly bad right now. But what I will commit to you is that we are going to get through this together. I'll be with you over the coming weeks and the coming months from my home here in my home, and I'll be tuning in. And I'm going to take your questions and answers. The last few weeks has been a bit of a wake-up call for us. And I know that we need to be much closer to you. And the more that I hear from you, the more I'm going to make sure that we build things in partnership with you. And we really are partners, or I want us to be. And I hope that this is the beginning of that. And I just want you to remember one last thing. Travel will be back. And when it is, we look forward to welcoming millions of guests together again. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you.